And, well, they don't know.
They don't,
Well,
yeah, there should be a cut there.
You revealed
Yeah.
the secret. There was a pause. Actually, people are good at identifying the jump cuts, and sometimes in the comments they're like, "What happened? I have to know."
The genie appeared and asked for a penance.
That was pretty mundane.
That was- yeah.
So, yeah, social media. Now we have all of the world is saying that social media is bad for us, that it's destroying the minds of our children. It's causing our teenagers to do the unthinkable. And what can we do about it? So the government doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. And people have gotten together and they've decided to sue themselves. Social media companies say, you can't sue us. We're protected by 230. And now?
Social media giants must face child safety lawsuits, a judge rules. I don't get this. Like, why? Okay, what about spray paint and duct tape and eggs and
Oh, they limit some of that stuff if you're 18. Like you can't. I remember it was hard to buy Sharpies and spray paint when I was under 18, even though I needed them for art projects.
But you're overwhelmingly blaming the gun here. I mean, it's not like when you buy eggs, the eggs whisper to you. It's like, throw me at a car.
Maybe that you don't hear that sound.
You don't pop the egg carton open and it's like the car egging challenge.
clearly someone has never been on 4chan.
Well, but that's the thing.
Letting the intrusive thoughts win.
It's not that they're giving them dangerous things, although you could say it's a dangerous thing. It's that they are showing them things that encourage them to do dangerous things.
By the algorithm.
The TikTok boys, right? Lots of young kids probably would not steal Kias and Hyundais if they did not get instructed and encouraged on TikTok to steal Kias and Hyundais.
I think this is leading us down a bad path where the solution is much worse than the problem.
That's just government. So they are going to have to go to court over this, and they're going to be held accountable for a variety of things, like I mentioned earlier, mostly about the teens unaliving themselves. That's the big one.
I really like the. I read some of the filings from the social media companies, and it does really read like by the power of Section 230 in the same cadence as by the power of Castle Grayskull, and it did not work in this case.
But the thing about it is, it's an impossible task,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even if they agreed to do it, I don't think they can.
Even if they agreed to do it, how many layers of code and indirection, does the system have to detect? Because even like going back all the way to really ancient things like LiveJournal, they just censored everything, but then you could still, talk in code. It's like, is anybody looking for pots and
Oh,
pans?
that's already happening. We're just joking, like unalive themselves.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's already words to go get around all the censors.
We're literally doing that every time we speak. But yeah, and the thing about it is, I'm going to argue in the opposite direction. Politically, we have that.
Yeah.
We have the social media companies have built a system that can absolutely put you in one of two baskets and shield you from everything in the other basket. So could we do it for violence? Could everybody just go in the non-violence basket? I don't know.
I would like my MetaQuest headset to make sure that I never see anything I don't want to see. Can do.
I don't think that's good for humanity, but it seems like that's where we're going. And one great example, right, of we are not willing to show you something because it's going to cause some problems, some big problems, not with the American lifestyle and our youth, but rather the bottom line for Google in China.
Or Apple.
sorry,
Lawmakers
Apple.
question Apple over cancellation of Jon Stewart's show. I'm not sure if this is Jon Stewart, like Mastercraft 3D chess, or just a happenstance, but Jon Stewart made sure that there's lots of documentation about why they canceled his show on Apple TV, and it's because what he said would probably make their Chinese business partners uncomfortable, which, given where we are now, is all of a sudden a lot of political people are giving Apple unwanted attention. At least Apple doesn't want it. I'm sure Jon Stewart is cackling.
He'll have a great time with that.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to read. I would love to get some discovery from that, right?
Yeah.
Some internal Apple memos.
Yeah.
I look forward to the level 1 links with friends where we're reading the Apple memos to you. It's going to be great.
What a weird thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
What I do. And we often talk about when it comes to facial recognition and warrantless surveillance, especially the geo warrants and stuff like that. Cops have a special agreement with all the big tech companies. We don't talk about this, even in court. You do parallel construction. You never admit where all this comes from, because if you do, something like this comes up.
Encrypted email service Tuta denies that it's a honeypot for the Five Eyes intelligence. Tuta used to be called Tutanota. It's an encrypted email service, but the way this accusation has been leveled, they never really would be able to prove that they're not. So the client is the thing that does all the encryption, and the client is fully open source, but the server backend part is not open source. So there would have to be some backdoor in the cryptography hiding in plain sight in the client part of it. And that's a thing that's happened with elliptic curve, that's a bingo square, and some of the other encryption stuff that we've had in the past. It's taken a few years for it to be detected. So this, in a few years, we'll know for sure, but I don't think we know right now.
We're leaving out a critical element here. There was a Canadian former policeman who, under oath, testified that it was a honeypot and that they used it for that purpose. This is what brought all this about. Now, the company themselves say this is not true, but why would he lie about that?
Maybe the law enforcement person misunderstood the honeypot they were getting it from, and the whole thing is misdirection.
He's a retired cop, so he's not under the, requirement to not talk about it anymore, I guess. So that's going to be an interesting one to follow. But he claimed it was all just a massive honeypot to get people into, an encrypted phone, so that they can then surveil them. We've seen that. That's happened in, I think, Australia and the European Union, right? They were selling super encrypted criminal phones, and it was just law enforcement the entire time. They took them all down. And the patching your software, it's good practice. It'll save you a lot of headache and perhaps maybe some court and or criminal jail time.
New York Attorney General issues a $450,000 penalty to US Radiology after an unpatched bug led to a ransomware attack. What was at issue? A sonic wall with an unpatched vulnerability from 2021.
But that's a little muddy because it wasn't an unpatched vulnerability. It was unpatchable vulnerability. Sonic Wall had deprecated that device. So there were no security updates for it. So they were scheduled to replace it with a new one so they could update it, but no one got around to it.
Oops.
And then everybody's x-rays were leaked.
Oops.
Not my bones.
Well,
Better than
hey,
your plastic surgery.
I think everybody's going to move to the Cisco and Meraki model of, it's expired. We're just going to turn it off remotely. Good luck.
I guess that's preferable. Be annoying if you need an x-ray.
I guarantee you that there are people inside Cisco right now writing to the lawmakers to be like, hey, make it impossible for our customers to sue us when we turn off their stuff because they didn't pay.
It's annoying if you have to get an x-ray. You just stop right there.
Well, healthcare and technology are inextricably linked, and they get hacked pretty much around the clock because they're a great target. So what can you do to defend yourself? Well, nothing is the answer. But New York is considering this and trying to come up with something.
New hospital cyber rules mulled in New York. The rules that have been floated so far are really nebulous and pretty wild. It's like, basically, we'll keep the system up to date and make sure that it has patches and make sure that it has antivirus. And I think pretty much all hospitals and healthcare systems would be immediately out of compliance with that because no one ever updates anything because everyone is scared to death of breaking everything and then nobody can do anything inside the hospital.
I think what we have to get to, and of course no one will accept this, is that hospitals have to have a lot less of my information. I mean, we got to get to a point where, why don't I just have my medical information with me or some, cryptographic thing that I can send them online for okay, you can see my stuff for this session today. Here's my USB stick. Give it back when we're done.
You get a boop on your phone. It's like, they would like to access your medical records. Okay.
My family kind of does that. Like we keep our own medical records, but it's just like a notebook.
Yeah, but you can't stop them.
Oh
from
yeah,
keeping
no,
your
not at
medical
all.
record. I mean, that's
But-
not going to say. That just gives you another vector for somebody to break into your house and steal your medical
Well, we
records.
do that just so it's like when someone's in the hospital or if they've had a surgery or something, we'll like write down every time the doctor visits and like what they say, because you never know when they're gonna forget something.
They walk into a room having prepared for nothing.
Yeah.
Doctors. It's amazing. I understand they're overworked, but it's like, dude, take 5 minutes before you walk in here.
Look at the chart.
Just a quick view of the chart. And then they still do that thing where it's like, oh, how you been doing? Oh, it's good to see you. It's like, you have no idea who I am.
I mean, they have to do that though. That's part of their, what is it, the bedside manner. You need to be nice, and they're probably taught that.
I would prefer just reality. This is a business transaction. Let's
Let's get
conduct
done.
it. Like, And it's a darkness over the European Union. I feel sorry for you people.
European Digital Identity. Council and Parliament reach a provisional agreement on EIDs for the European Digital Identity. What could possibly go wrong? This, of course, is the first brick in the foundation of things like European-wide cryptocurrency and being able to identify you as you travel around the European Union and all sorts of fun things.
Tracking everything that you do more officially, and central bank digital currency.
We can just automatically charge you the VAT and know who you are. We don't have to go through any paperwork. We can eliminate all this bureaucracy.
We can just turn you off because you posted something on Twitter that we don't like. But the EU does do some good things. While they are, taking over our lives and crushing our spirits, they go after the big tech companies, which is nice to see.
The EU will finally free Windows users from Bing, meaning that they're going to force Microsoft to unbundle Bing from Windows 11, finally.
Good job.
When you install Windows, which search engine would you like to use? Suddenly, it's not critical operating system dependent that you choose an internet search engine immediately upon installing your search engine or your operating system.
I really hate in Outlook when you click on a link and it's like, oh, let me open this in Edge. I'm like,
Everybody hates that.
yeah.
Literally everybody that doesn't work at Microsoft hates that.
And the start menu has also become unusable. Like they put so much crap. Like once your computer's been on for like a week or two and you click on start, it's just like, bleh, I don't know.
It's like an email box that you've been left. It's like it just collects all the spam. And you're like, oh, God, I should just get a new email.
That's such a pain in the butt as someone had to do that a while back.
Well, you know what? I recently saw that either Sweden or Switzerland, I can't remember which one because they're the same in my mind for whatever reason, was launching a PR campaign to show people the difference between Switzerland and Sweden. I'm not alone. A lot of people can't tell.
Well, I mean, I can tell, like, culturally, I can tell. It's just the words are like
I just can't remember which is which, right? I understand that they're two different entities. They blur together. But I learned that Sweden doesn't have any kind of, like, government mandated employment stuff. They don't have a minimum wage, and they don't have any, like official unions and stuff. They have unions, but it's all private. And one man is going to be very upset about that.
Sweden's Tesla blockade is spreading. Starting Friday, dock workers in all Swedish ports will refuse to offload Teslas. Cleaning crews will no longer clean showrooms, and mechanics won't fix charging points as the labor dispute rages on.
Wow.
Organized labor, woo!
So it started with the mechanics. They wanted more stuff from Tesla. They wanted higher wages and some other stuff. And Tesla was like, no, we don't do that. We don't negotiate with unions. And so they were like, really? Well, call to power all the other Swedish unions. And
They did a magical girl transformation like Sailor Moon.
They'll have special union rings and they put them all together. And so now Tesla's going to have a real tough time. What do you do if the Steve doers won't pull them off the ship?
You're just screwed.
You just send them back?
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for that? And the China-U.S. thing, we had our diplomatic visit this week, which I guess is supposed to mean that we're going to be more friendly with China or try to be. And that's interesting because it comes as we are learning that all of our sanctions are powerless.
China receives U.S. equipment to make advanced chips despite new rules, according to this report. Why? Well, we can do business with some other country, and that country can do business with China. So it's like the sanctions aren't there, really.
But even worse than that, there were apparently some check boxes, and it was like, do you promise that you're just going to use this for older stuff and not state-of-the-art chips? And if you checked it, they were like, here you go. Have your lithography.
Pinky swear.
This is like Civ, where it's like, I will trade you some pandas for some advanced lithography equipment. It's like, okay.
Didn't China just recall a bunch of their pandas from our zoos?
Apparently one of the things that was kind of negotiated during his trip was we might get some more pandas.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Really working on the tough issues.
Was it Nixon originally that did that? It was like the panda diplomacy? I thought that was Nixon.
I feel bad for the pandas. I don't think they're going to have a better life in China.
Yeah.
We might as well have them if China's going to put them in zoos, but why can't we just let the pandas? There's lots of room in China. Just give them some space. You know what? We should put the pandas in one of the ghost cities.
I was just thinking about the ghost, but the thing, aren't pandas really stupid? Like that's kind of at least from online, they seem like they're kind of dumb because like they don't know how to breed, they struggle to feed themselves, they only eat bamboo.
That would be pretty cool building security for a while. It's like, oh, we're going to go break into one of the abandoned tofu dreg apartment buildings. There's just an emaciated, angry, hungry panda. It's just like, oh.
Are they really, they're not really aggressive, are they?
They probably would be when they're hungry.
Yeah, not like
They can't eat people.
Yeah, if they mostly just eat bamboo. It's not like a black bear or a brown bear.
I mean, my
or
cats are
grizzly.
pretty dumb, and I still love them, so we shouldn't judge the pandas. And China has a new milestone. Every headline was claims, says, no one actually confirmed it, because I don't know if anybody trusts it. Well, they say.
China says it built the world's fastest internet network. And when you look at the components that it was built, it was all made in China, 1.2 terabits per second. And apparently it's already deployed as a link between two places. So, yay.
This will not be coming to the home.
No.
Unfortunate.
But everything also made in China. So this is the rest of the world would like to buy your internet equipment, please. Thank you.
And it's interesting to look at our approach to social media companies where we are constantly in court and these cases roll out for years and such. And then we look at India's take on the whole thing.
Nepal decides to ban TikTok.
Not India, Nepal.
Well, they're in that neighborhood.
They are. They're neighbors.
Yeah, so they were just, I was expecting more exposition from you on that.
There's not much to say. I mean, they did it. We'll see if they can actually enforce it.
They looked at it and they said, this is a security problem for our citizens and it doesn't encourage healthy habits. So let's get rid of it on those two grounds.
I can't remember what the quote was, but they came out and they were just basically like, yeah, this is bad. It's bad for the people and we won't be having it.
It did seem thoughtful and considered because they said, if people want to express themselves in video format, that's fine. But this seems to be some sort of weaponized something. We don't want any part of it.
And India feels the same way about most social media, but they took it a different path. They did not ban it. Instead, they just basically took control of it, and no one said no.
How India tamed Twitter and set a global standard for online censorship. And the write-up here draws a lot of parallels between the control of the platform and the kinds of controls of the platform that we see when we're dealing with China. And it's weird because the media made a big deal out of it with China, but India is just, that's just standard operating procedure. Most American companies are like, in order to do business in India, we have to do this thing. And it's like, it seems weird that you can't criticize the political leaders. And they're like, don't worry about it. And then, in China, it's, you can't say these things, or you can't have a VPN app in the Apple App Store. It's like, that's what's needed to do business in China. But in these kind of write-ups, it's dealt with differently, which is interesting.
Do you think India would have the power to cancel Jon Stewart?
Probably.
So we talked about this in the past, but India has this, like, you have to have a 24-hour response to something that they want to be taken down. They don't have to tell you why either. You have to, every 2 weeks, you got to go and meet with the government, the heads of the companies, and you have to be like, here's what we're doing to make you happy. And the ultimate sword of Damocles is that if you mess that up, they will arrest your local people. So
imagining having to go to a meeting every 2 weeks where you're like basically just thinking of random things to tell them, like that just makes me tired to think about.
The article author explains it but fails to actually put it together, which is, it's the boiling frog of, like, in the beginning it was, we're just going to take down posts, but now they've basically given them carte blanche to even delete accounts because they don't want to deal with the bureaucratic headache of showing up and dealing with stuff. And it's like, well, you've basically ceded control of the platform to somebody else at this point. It's like, yeah, we don't care as long as we make money. Okay.
it's bad news. And there's some more bad news if you are a crypto bro, because the world is turning against you.
48 nation bloc to crack down on using crypto assets to avoid tax. And or 48 nation bloc really would like tax revenue from crypto. Alternate headline.
And they would like to have a record of every crypto transaction to confirm that.
There have been a coordinated set of releases lately in terms of, stolen crypto assets are being used for gambling online, which launders it. And it's like, well, I'm sure some of it was.
Yeah, sure. But you know what else is laundered quite a bit?
Actual
Regular
dollars.
dollars, yeah.
HSBC, his hand has gone up in the chat.
Globally, I would say that's quite a bit more than crypto. All crypto. Now, moving on to security, this was our like heart-stopping headline of the week. It's not quite as bad as they would let on, but it is a terrifying thought.
In a first, the cryptographic keys protecting SSH connections stolen in a new hack. An error as small as a single flipped memory bit is all it takes to expose a private key. It's a bit of a nothing burger when you dig into it, but this may become more of a problem in the future.
So right now it's only for proprietary SSH. Open SSH and TLS and that stuff does have safeguards against it, but they've figured out if you can cause an error during the opening handshake, you can get enough information to put the key back together in these certain systems, which would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
And what do you know? More healthcare data has been stolen. And now we find out how much.
Healthcare giant McLaren reveals data on 2.2 million patients stolen during a ransomware attack. I like how it's like, we're going to ransom your stuff, but we're also going to steal your data just to make sure that you pay.
Well, as usual, when it's healthcare stuff, you get a litany of just terrifying data and not just the surface level stuff that we all have on the dark web.
Billing, claims, diagnostics information, prescriptions, medical details, and information relating to diagnostic results and treatments. There's probably stuff in there that your doctor hasn't shared with you that's just the internal notes, like, this patient is a pain in the butt to deal with.
Yeah. Patient got real weird when I asked him about this thing. Like,
And Optus, poor Optus, they've had a tough time. The Australian people lost all connectivity and they are demanding to know more. But this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the previous time that this happened. And that is still going through the courts, and they're doing everything they can to not let us know about it.
Optus loses court bid to report into cause of 2022 cyber attack secret. So they have to reveal what happened.
But not to the public.
Just the court case.
Only the discovery. If it is used as evidence, then the public might someday know about it. But they will get to go through a whole other appeals process to try and stop that as well. And we are trying to find out what happened to the most recent Optus problem, what caused everything to go dark for all that time.
Optus's safety systems, not routine upgrade, caused outage. So they started a rolling upgrade, and then the rolling upgrade rolled and did not upgrade.
oh,
So SingTel, which owns Optus, is saying that it wasn't the update itself, it was the fact that the safety systems stopped the update from updating, which is in conflict with this story.
DP World, Australia sites back online after a cyber attack.
Which said that it was the update.
Hmm.
Who do you believe?
The update was malicious, as it turns out. We don't know.
if you're an employee, you hope that it was malware or an attack, because then, you don't have quite as big of a pit in your stomach that you broke something.
They described how, they've got, because Australia is a big empty place, they've got all these stations which are unmanned, and they had to be physically rebooted.
Oh,
So somebody had to
drive out to the outback. Yeah.
Rough day.
Kick some crocodiles out of the way on the way to the door.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Probably open the door and just snakes just pile out.
Pour out.
Snakes and spiders. And Google is having a new malware problem because the FOMO about artificial intelligence.
Google fights scammers using Bard hype to spread malware. So basically, you get an email. It's like, hey, Bard can do your job now. Click this link, and it's malware.
Click this link to download Bard. People don't question it. And here's a
Oh, look what you've done.
Palm Beach post. I hate websites that when you click over here in the margin,
It disappears.
it
Yeah.
treats that like that's an awful design. Yes. When you go home for Thanksgiving, assuming that you're in a culture that celebrates Thanksgiving, be sure and tell all the oldsters in your life about this.
How AI uses social media to help con artists with the grandparent scam and other schemes. So basically, you can fake your own voice. Well, scammers can fake your voice, mostly competently. Call up your grandparents and say, hey, I need money because I was in a wreck or I'm in jail or whatever.
We did a story about this a couple weeks ago where someone got scammed pretty good with this.
And then they'll send you loads of money or send you to a Bitcoin ATM.
And all I got to do is monitor your social media. And it's like, oh, you're on vacation in Europe, are you? Then I call up your grandparents and it's like, oh, I've been arrested in France. Wire me some money. But it's not really you. Works really well.
I feel like I need to tell my mom about that.
And the bank is like, we're not going to send the money because this just seems weird.
Yeah, but you do the Bitcoin ATM.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy way to get around that. That's one of the weirdest things about the catfish people, where it's, they question them and they're like, why did you think that this person that you were in love with needed Sephora gift cards? And I just like,
They needed to look beautiful. That's the price of beauty.
And Zelle is one of those things where you can seamlessly transfer money to one another. And you're like, wait, can't we already do that with cryptocurrency? Well, the powers that be told us that cryptocurrency was for laundering and stealing, and that Zelle is safer because that doesn't happen on Zelle.
Payments app Zelle begins refunds for imposter scams after Washington pressure.
Isn't Zelle one of the ones that does like the pay as you go, like layaway kind of thing as well?
I thought
that
Zelle
Zelle?
was like bank to bank.
I don't remember. There's another one, Klarna, where it's like
There's
you can do.
several.
I thought Zelle could do that too. Maybe I'm wrong.
Could be. I don't know. I've never used it.
Same.
But yeah, they were pretending that it's like, well, listen, you sent it to whatever this address was. You meant to send it, right? And then the lawmakers are like, really, bro? We're just busting all the cryptos on that, and you're gonna make that argument. So they're gonna give back actually they're gonna undo a ton of transactions. It costs them a lot of money. And we're learning a little bit more about the MGM and Las Vegas hackers. And most of the time, the government seems to want us to believe it's like, oh, these are just little like fires that we just need to put out. This is not a real threat. But they're having trouble with this one.
FBI struggled to disrupt dangerous casino hacking gang, cyber responders say. So this is the group that shut everything down, and it turns out they were very, very well organized and very well funded.
And haven't been caught. And probably aren't even close to getting caught.
I can't wait to see the Netflix special on this. If they get caught.
They're going to have to spend their entire Bitcoin hoard to catch them. Not really. They don't care about it that much.
They also point out that apparently the FBI cybersecurity team is almost completely gone at this point because everybody's gone to work for companies who need cybersecurity.
Yeah, that $500K plus $250K signing bonus and like $10 million in stock that vests in 5 years, sort of attractive. So yeah.
And we're entering into the holiday season. You might be buying gifts for some children or anybody, I guess. And here are some things that you might not consider when you go and buy those low-priced items, but you should, because remember where they come from.
Children's tablet has malware and exposes kids' data, researcher finds. Walmart pulled the tablet from its online store. Amazon and Google say that they are investigating.
I love this story because this was just some kid had a birthday and somebody was like, look, we got you this low-priced tablet. It was probably somebody who was just like, just knew him kinda, didn't want to spend a lot of money. But the kid's mom works for the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And she was like, oh, let me observe this. Let me audit what's going on here. And she found quite a few things that a little scary for the kid.
That'd be a good consulting gig.
Yeah, but who's going to pay you for it? Not Amazon.
No one wants to actually know.
Walmart. It came from Walmart, I think.
Yeah.
Apparently Amazon has pulled it from shelves, but Walmart and Target are still selling it. Wow. And if you ever go to prison, boy, do you lose all of your rights. It's a bad time and no one cares. No one cares if you got a toothache or you need your insulin or whatever. And they don't care if you need to communicate with your family.
Prison phone company leaked 600,000 users' data and didn't notify them, the FTC says. Well, yeah, they're prisoners. That's non-human, right? Not really.
Who cares? So
the FTC now, finally, after like 17 years...
But they should have notified the people who weren't in prison, because I think sometimes their payment information is what goes in to buy the time. Just talking to a prisoner puts you on that do not mind list. And we talked about those special phones. You got to wonder if this is a honeypot. But until it is, or until it's revealed as such, we're going to suffer from it.
Yeah.
The $2,000 phones that let anyone make robocalls.
Why?
To scam people.
Yeah.
Literally a device to scam people. If you get those local phone numbers,
Look at the social media post. I don't even speak no more. My robot does it. Easy, bro.
well, that was part of this is basically a sales pitch.
Yeah.
And finally, we have this problem with, like man in the middle, and actually government in the middle is often the better way to describe it. So if you are looking for a secure online way to communicate, how can you be sure?
Blockchain, not crypto. Proton Mail CEO calls new address verification feature blockchain in a very pure form. Basically, it's just a giant address book, but how do you verify identities? It's like, hey, it turns out blockchain might actually be a good fit for that.
So there's no
It's like the GPG key directory, but in a blockchain.
There's no speculation here. There's no cryptocurrency, no NFTs. It's actually a blockchain being used for security. Imagine that.
Neat.
It's the end of day one.
Thanks for hanging out.
2 more days remain.
Well, but this is weird because it's the U.S. holiday week. So, fun times.
Wait,
Well, that doesn't change our schedule.
it's Thanksgiving this week.
Yeah.
It's the one coming up, yeah. 23rd. Wow. I'll have the same.
I thought we had one more after
No,
that.
there's
Oh.
no more Thursdays that week. The existential dread is real.
I've had to drive so much lately, and I'm gonna have to drive so much this week too.
Just say that you're hosting this year. And when everybody's like, we don't want to come to your house, you'll be like, well, I'm not coming.
I guess we're not doing it. No, I've already promised to make a dish, so
Mail it.
yeah, mail eggs. Ugh.
Anyway, that doesn't change your schedule. We will still be here coming up tomorrow and Friday.
Bye.